Okay, so this video is going to be a little lengthy. I will have a shortened version of the same thing that doesn't have as much of the explanation, but I want to talk about the quote-unquote core, which is a collaboration of these groups of abdominal muscles that we're more familiar with, but also the big, long, tubular paraspinal muscles, generally termed, that run up and down the spine from the lower back all the way up to thoracic spine and rib cage, and then deep to those, the stabilizer muscles of your low back, particularly the rotatories and the multifidi and interspinalis, the small muscles that are going to go from bone to bone to bone and protect your spine from that curvature. If you think of the curvature of the spine and those big tubular muscles pulling from the top and bottom, they're going to bow the back along that curve. These muscles are meant to help to hold the middle and keep it pulled back. So as the muscles pull from the top and bottom and bend and arch that spine, these small muscles go from bone to bone and pulled down, in this case, on that curve so it's not bowing up, or in your spine so it's not bowing forward. A very important process to avoid shear that's going to break down your spine. So the core is really more about a collaboration between the abs and these back stabilizing muscles more than just strengthening your abs. The concept of the core is very important to grasp, and so I really do like to spend a lot of time focusing on that with my clients. So there's multiple ways that we can do this exercise. So now in the clinic, I will typically set this up with a blood pressure cuff. It's the best way for me to kind of help you visualize what you're doing, but without the blood pressure cuff, what you're really focusing on is making sure you can palpate and feel whether or not you're firing those muscles properly. So you're going to find your little pointy, bumpy bones on the front called your ASIS on your pelvis there. You're going to try and go just inside of them and a little low and poke in, and as you do, you should be able to kind of brace your stomach muscles. You can kind of imagine almost like you're trying to quickly exhale, like almost like a cough or a laugh, and you'll feel those muscles kind of push out into your fingers, and you'll feel them firm up underneath your fingertips. That's how you know you're kind of firing the right muscles. Another location that you can go is just behind your midline in your low back, behind the midsection, just above the bumpy bone in the back, your PSIS, the back of the pelvis there. Do the same thing. You could do the quick exhalation or the laugh, the cough kind of contraction, and you'll feel that muscle firm up underneath the small of your back. That's the best way to know when you're getting a good contraction. Then you're trying to work with generating that contraction as you do certain movements. I usually have my clients start with just a simple knee to chest and lower down, and then you can also make it more complicated by adding a reach, which we'll do later. But what you're really trying to feel for, besides just the muscle contraction, which is good to feel for, but really paying attention to, do you feel your back move at all? Does the pressure underneath your spine, where you can feel the small portion of your back that's touching the floor and the small portion of your back that's maybe hovering above in that arch, can you feel any change in pressure as you move your legs? Do you feel your back press more into the ground as you lift your knee to your chest? Do you feel it pull away from the floor as you lower the leg? Do you feel your tailbone start to press heavier as you lower the leg? Do you feel your upper back press more, or your neck move as you bring your knee up? What these are all indications of is that your stabilizing group of muscles isn't doing its job, and you're getting spinal movement where ideally you don't want to. In the real world, of course, the spine's going to move a little bit. It's not that big of a deal. We're just trying to limit the extreme movements here, trying to make sure that when the hip moves, it's done by the hip and not done by your back. We're trying to best idealize these movements, and that's the point of exercising in general. All exercises at the end of the day are core exercises. You're trying to train the body to move through just the part of the body that's moving, hip in this case. So if you feel the spine moving when you bring your knee to your chest, you have to use your back muscles to almost arch a little more. You're not actually arching. What you're really trying to do is just keep the back from flattening. As you're doing the opposite, as you're lowering the leg, you're really trying more to prevent the back from arching. You're having to fire your stomach muscles a little more as you lower the leg, but not so much that it makes your back flatten. The point of the core is really just to make sure the back stays out of the movement as much as possible, and that the part of the body, again in this case the hips, part of the body that is supposed to be moving, is the one actually doing the moving. So it's just an up and down, trying to do as best you can to eliminate any movement in that low back as best you can. And again, with the blood pressure cuff, you would see that in a pressure change on the cuff. In this case, you're just having to go by feel. Do I feel those back pressure points changing as I move?